Let's check if we're live. Let's have a little look. Let's log in. Let's do what we always do.
Got to
Dave,
check
you've got your
it.
glasses. Nice.
I know. Well, yeah. So I can see El Screeny Eye.
See the comments. Let's check. Hopefully we are coming through. It's not showing on here yet. This is weird. Let's check. If anyone is joining us, do just drop in the comments.
Yep. Say hello. They'll
yes.
be there. They'll be there.
There we go. We are live. Look at that. Great stuff. Well, nice to be here. As people do join in, nice to see who is the first to join in. So yeah, do drop in the comments so we can see who's here.
Angus, he's very punctual. Very punctual.
I'm really wondering, Angus, do you literally set an alarm? Is it because you are always the first? And same with Andrew as well. You're usually pretty sharpish on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys must be like, right, it's okay, 12:30, and apologies, we were 1 minute late today. Yeah, classic. Didn't put the power cord in the TV.
But we were set up way earlier than we normally are.
We were ready.
So it's really peculiar that we were set up with like 40 minutes to go, and yet we're still a minute late.
Absolutely
But
madness.
you can't let professionalism get in the way of a good show. And all the best stage acts and rock bands, they never arrive on time.
That is true. That is very true. Well, look, thanks for joining us, guys. Good to see Brittany on here as well. And we've got Holly. I say any newbies that have come in, do comment. Good to see you here.
Yeah.
Today, obviously, it feels like we weren't that long ago. We're doing this because we did one of these on Friday, which was the Kilimanjaro winner announcement.
It was.
Which was amazing. Which was, I think it was Pete, wasn't it? Pete won the, Pete Hardy won the Kilimanjaro competition.
Yeah. No, Henley.
Henley, oh my gosh.
I was thinking then, who's Pete Hardy? Did we give it away to Pete Hardy? Pete Henley. Angus says he always finishes work 30 minutes. Oh, I'd love to finish it's 12 o'clock finish.
That's not bad, but yeah, that's pretty good, Angus. That's pretty good timing.
I'm going to go with Postman. Could be a postie, finishing at 12. He does the early shift. What other jobs would finish at 12?
Could just be,
It could be a night. It could be a night shifter, I guess.
Or could just
12-hour
be
night
self-employed,
shift.
works in the morning, and that's it. That's his rules.
Yeah, it's a good system.
Whatever you do, it works. But yeah, today we wanted to go a little bit different. Obviously, last week we talked a lot about Kilimanjaro.
Yep.
We had a little look back at the last kind of 6 to 12 months, and we realised we hadn't done as much about kit as we'd done the previous kind of 2 or 3 years. So we thought we'd focus on kit today.
Yeah.
We got some.
It's over there.
We got a little bit of show and tell.
Yeah, we have. I'll be honest with you. We could have brought more in.
We could have brought more, but
we
that's a lesson.
Yeah, people will think we just decided to do kit in the morning, and that's not what happened. We knew what we would do. No, it is what happened. But to be honest, we do need to do more about kit because I think you guys love it. We like doing it. Yeah. I don't have to make notes. It's all up here. And
exactly.
Yeah, we can have a good one.
Nice, exactly. Sue, book for EBC in October. Very excited. Yeah,
amazing.
Sue, that'll be here before you know it. It's crazy, isn't it? I know when we're talking to certain Evertrackers and they're like, I'm going in this time. It's like, goes really quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully, Sue, we can talk about equipment. Any questions you've got about your trip, do drop in the comments as well, especially around Everest Base Camp, but any trip really. We're here to answer those questions. But to start with equipment then, Dave, I think something I wrote down first, as clearly Penny wants in.
Penny the dog is scratching the door.
Is about finding the right gear, because there's obviously a lot of different types of equipment out there, and there's some of it is super high end, some of it is budget, but it's something around just finding the right gear for you as an individual.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think you don't have to spend a huge fortune on getting all the highest top end like Arc'teryx or stuff like that,
which are really good, but obviously
don't get me wrong, they're amazing. And when you see like a Gore-Tex jacket that costs 600 or even 800 pounds, you think that's a very specialist bit of equipment that's designed usually for sort of alpine, like winter Matterhorn ascents and things like that. But I find myself, and I am the worst for this, is it's like buying a car for me or a motorbike or bike. I start with the one that I want, that's perfect for me, that's perfect, and then there's a slightly shinier one, and then there's a slightly faster one, and then before you know it, I'm starting to approach those, but you've got to rein it in because you don't need to spend thousands of pounds on trekking gear. If you're already a seasoned hiker, a seasoned trekker, you spend loads of times in the mountains, you're going to have a lot of what you already need anyway. If you are starting from scratch, then you just need to get kit that's good enough for whatever trip you're next planning.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, I remember when I first started, I bought quite a lot of base layers from Aldi, and they're not bad.
Which are perfectly
They were
fine.
pretty good.
Yeah.
They were pretty good base layers, and they do a lot of sporting stuff like ski. It's seasonal, but they do ski wear, run wear.
Helly Hansen stuff, don't they? If I remember.
Is it? I can't remember.
The base layers.
What it was, they were having a good sale on like running stuff.
Right.
So it was a lot of like tech tees and stuff like that I bought.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. And I wore those on my first trip to EBC.
Okay.
And then gradually, you see a deal on a Rab one, and you buy yourself a posh Rab one, and over time you can accumulate.
You can't resist, can you?
No, I can't. No, if I see a good enough deal, then I'll get it. Even though a lot of the stuff sits in my wardrobe not being used for years, but that one day when I'm like, do you know what, I could bust out that new base layer now.
See, and here's the lesson, guys.
Yeah.
No, it is. I think a big part of it, and something I kind of thought about, it is trial and error of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, some of the stuff we can share today means that you don't have to trial and error it. But most of the time, that's how we've kind of learned what equipment is good for us.
Yeah.
Generally, you've got your basics, and we'll go through, head to toe in terms of equipment and what you need. And some of these might be kind of trip specific. Hey, Bri, how you doing? Well done on your long walk. I did follow you on the tracker. Well done. And he's hopefully he's still standing, but yeah, he did. I think it was like an ultra marathon.
He takes it too far.
He takes it too far. He's just showing off, really.
Yeah.
But
to be honest,
he was in Wales for
a man in his 60s, he's really, really fit. I will give him that. He's a strong lad.
Is he in his 60s?
Is he not?
He's going to tell you off now.
I thought you told me he was in his 60s.
No, I didn't, Brian.
Bri's a legend.
Sorry, where was I? Yeah, around the trial and error is a biggie, because naturally you're gonna, as Dave said, you can buy all the best stuff, but doesn't necessarily mean you need to go that far. Especially if you've got a budget for a trip, and sometimes trips are sort of £2,000 or £3,000, and then you're thinking, well, how much do I need to spend on kit then? As Dave said, you've probably got a lot of it already. If you're already walking, you've probably got your boots already, or you might have a backpack, or you might have base layer, or your trousers or your bottoms.
Yeah.
It is likely you've got it all already. But if you haven't, don't feel you need to do the trial and error by spending on the high end stuff. If you want to kind of feel, especially with jackets, waterproof jackets, you obviously want to find a good one. But sometimes you don't necessarily need, the bomb-proof, like mountain equipment, Lhotse, for example, which is awesome.
It's a good jacket.
He feels like he's in his 60s.
Yeah.
I was going, brilliant, Bri. But you can obviously try another jacket. Like we found that there was the Rab Firewall, which was half price compared to equivalent jackets.
Yeah.
And it actually did really well in rainy conditions.
I've got a controversial opinion on that, though.
But now you don't like that jacket.
I don't like that jacket anymore. The latest one, I'm not getting on with.
I think their next step, because their original one, which I think was the one that, and this is the Rab Firewall, it had red kind of zips and red bits on it. About 5 years ago, it was great. And then they did change the color. They changed the make. Definitely think it's not as good as it used to be.
No,
unfortunately. I don't know why.
It's a great jacket. I like it. But I do like Rab as a brand.
Yeah.
I think they're really good. They do a lot of renewable stuff now and a lot of repairs. They're doing a lot of work around like removing microplastics and things like that. So it's all very interesting and very good. But this is about the trial and error side of things and sort of evolving over time.
Yeah.
And it's also why training is so important. Keeping your training up fairly regularly all year round means that you'll be walking in the winter, you'll be walking in the summer, you'll be walking in changeable conditions, and you'll start to get a feel for what kind of works for you, where your comfortable level is. I used that. We got that Firewall because my one got lost in or appropriated by someone in the Tupkal refuge.
That was in the refuge, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an accident. I'm sure it was an accident because I think I got it out of my bag ready to go, and it's dark when you're getting ready, and it was a black jacket. And so I've got a new one now, and the new one I wore out on a rainy day up in Brecon. I thought, this jacket is pants, man. I was like, I'm not getting on with it. So I've got a new one now, the Rab. I think it's called
Latok.
Latok.
It's because Carl has put it on there.
Oh, there he is. Yeah,
Same jacket.
that is my jacket. Yeah, that's the one I bought at a really good deal in Go
It is
Outdoors. Actually, I think it was like £150 off. And it's amazing. It's like the dark blue and then a lighter blue. That's the one I've got at the moment, and it's really, really good.
So talking about waterproofs then, I mean, I know we were head to toe, but waterproofs is a big one. And people think you go in the Himalayas, you're going to Kilimanjaro, you're going to Machu Picchu, or you're going to Toubkal, it's warm. But actually, and unfortunately, there's a chance of rain on any trip.
Yeah, no,
it's good to plan.
Well, it will rain on Kili.
Yeah,
definitely.
Certainly on the lower slopes.
Yeah, it gets a bit rainy. I'm going to follow Brittany's link there and just see how much it is now. I can't click it.
Directly on Rab.
Yeah, I'm just
interested
to see how much it is, because I think it's like a £500 jacket, but I didn't pay anything like that for it. This is another thing that I am. You see, I'm a hunter gatherer when it comes to kit like this. Another great website is Sports Pursuit. I think you get a lot of stuff that I think main sellers couldn't get rid of, so it all tends to be older season stuff.
Yeah, but
it's really good. 530 quid. Yeah, I didn't pay anything like that. I think I paid
wow.
In fact, I paid a lot less for that. I think I paid like $310, something like that.
So you expect a really good jacket for that price. I mean, geez, yeah, you think, and that's it. You've got broad range because you've got the Rab Firewall, which is about 150, and obviously you've got the high-end jacket, the Latek there. And I suppose that's the range, isn't it? You've got so many different waterproof jackets.
Yeah.
Which was a big one, talking about waterproofs, is that there are so many options. Ultimately, if it's a torrential downpour, doesn't matter what you wear when you're going to get wet.
Yeah, no, and actually I've been doing a lot of research into Gore-Tex recently. Very interesting in terms of how it's marketed and how effective it actually is.
Okay.
And
what do you find?
Well, I found out that they are sort of the market leaders in the waterproof technology.
Yeah.
But a lot of other companies do have their own technology. Like I think Rab had Pertex, and all these other companies will have their own. Now, they always say breathable and waterproof. What they should mean is breathable or waterproof. Because when a jacket is completely soaked through, it is no longer breathable, even if it's Gore-Tex.
That's very
true. But by all accounts, and this is based on a YouTube video that I watched, so it's not my own research.
Okay.
But the Gore-Tex is it might not necessarily be the best, but because it's the most well known,
that's why people buy it.
We love to see that yellow triangle dangling from the jacket.
It's confidence, isn't it?
And basically, if brands don't use Gore-Tex, if they try to push their own brand, then
interesting question.
Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it, that you know, it's more because over the years there's been so much promotion about Gore-Tex that naturally people think if it hasn't got it, it's not very good.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But to be honest, that if you do a lot of research into the subject, you'll find different opinions on different levels of jackets. I like to buy good waterproofs because I live in Wales. So most of the time I'm hiking. I mean, I can't remember the last time me and you did a hike and it didn't rain.
Yeah, well,
it's always raining here.
You have to. I mean, typically it's beautiful outside today.
I know, but that's because they knew we weren't going out.
That's because they knew we got the Tuesday tune-in.
Yeah.
But it's it's one of those that you've got to plan for all the 4 seasons, haven't you, on any of the trips? And good questions as well. Carl mentioned there what temp sleeping bag. Sorry, disappeared because you had another comment, Carl. Carl is smashing the comments today. Well done, mate. What temp sleeping bag would be good for both 3 passes, Island Peak, and K2 base camp? Some good ones there. I'd say. Mm-hmm. I mean, just to dive straight in around sleeping bags, is that firstly, the one for the 3 passes, you're going to be staying in tea houses. You're not going to be camping outside. So don't feel that you need the kind of best of the best. I mean, we recommend that, and sticking with Rab, Rab, they get a lot of plugs today, but the Rab Ascent 700 is more than suitable. That's a 4-season. I think the comfort rating, which is, because you'll see an extreme rating, which you don't really want to rely on because that's like survival. Comfort rating is if you're comfortably sleeping in it. And I think it goes down to like -12, I think, something like -14. It's more than enough. And actually using the Rab in the tea houses in Nepal. So in the tea houses when you're doing the Island Peak trip, or when you're doing Everest Base Camp, on any of the routes, you're going to be in tea houses, you're not camping. It's quite warm inside. It can get really cold as you get to, like, say, especially on the 3 passes, you're staying at some of the higher villages. You've obviously got Lobuche, you've got Gorekshep, you've got Gokyo, You've got Shukung Ri as well as you go down over Kong Mela. And Shukung, sorry, not Shukung Ri, that's the peak. Shukung, and it's just cold there anyway. So even though you're in a building, it's still freezing inside. So yeah, you'll definitely be in there. But the first like several days, you probably just have it over you. You won't really need to be in there.
Yeah.
But you can take a liner as well, which also helps. That being said, though, on Island Peak, if you are on the high camp,
yeah, you need like a -20.
then you need a different. I'd say probably a step up sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Instead, I mean, you've got a Rab Ascent 900, which probably would be suitable, but that is you're talking another couple of £100 for that type of.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to a news recently about the sleeping bags and things like that, and
Okay.
yeah, so you do need kind of. He was saying about that it's the weather's getting a little bit more extreme. I think the winters are getting perhaps a bit colder, and the sort of the not any other type of spring and things is getting a bit milder.
Yeah.
But when you do go up to high altitude, you might be fine with say the Rab 700, the 900, the 1200, but it all depends on the weather. But if the weather goes bad, then certain sleeping bags are going to just be eliminated. And you want to be left with the one that's going to keep you comfortable in all conditions.
Exactly.
So yeah, like a -20, 25 sleeping bag, which is more than enough, but you want more than enough because if you do have a really cold snap, the needle does drop well below zero, -15, 20 wind. You're going to want a proper expedition style sleeping bag.
Exactly, and you mentioned K2 base camp as well, and majority of it, especially when you're on, the Baltoro Glacier, you're literally in a camp. So yeah, and the wind, it is cold in the Karakoram. So yeah, you do want to make sure you've got a really good sleeping bag of at least that Rab Ascent 700 or more. And sometimes you look at the comfort rating. If you can see any sleeping bag, that comfort rating is kind of below -10, -10, -15, -20. They're high end. They are quite thick and dense, but they are the ones that will obviously you have a comfortable night. That being said, probably get away with maybe like a normal 4-season sleeping bag like the 700, but then you'll find that actually you'll probably be wearing your gear in your sleeping bag. And that happens on Everest Base Camp and other trips as well. Like I've been in Gorakshep, and even though I've got the thick duffel bag, it's so bloody sleeping bag, it's so bloody cold that I've got my down jacket on underneath as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I run a bit hot, but I do have. I use the Rab. I've used the 700 on Kili, EBC, Tukal, all of those types of things. Yeah, there is a little bit of what you're sort of comfortable with, and these sleeping bags are quite expensive, particularly the expedition ones. You're looking, close to £500 probably for one, but yeah, 100% have to be done.
Yeah, it's good as well. Like, Andrew mentioned as well around like shopping in Tamil for EBC specifically, or any Nepal trip. And Carl mentions there worthwhile buying from Tamil rather than buying the UK. I think you can do that. I think there's always that balance between quality and price, and normally you have to give in on one or the other. So I think. Sorry, we're literally having our windows washed.
You just see a brush kind of steaming the windows.
They're doing well. It's actually interesting because those windows haven't been washed for quite some time.
It's quite distracting though, isn't it?
It is, but if you can hear anything,
some hissing.
That's what it is. It's not a snake. It's just someone squirting the window.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to the Tamil thing, I wouldn't personally purchase a lot of stuff from Tamil.
Wouldn't rely on it.
One. It's a pain to have to arrive there and rather than enjoy the experience, have to go out shopping for all the major bits. Personally, as well, I think there's a lot of like, what they call North Fake sort of stuff. It can be good enough for the trip, but to me, it would just be like a little bit frustrating. I will pick up things like balls, caps.
Trekking poles are good.
Trekking poles, I guess stuff like that.
Things. Yeah.
But there are a few core items that I do think it's worth focusing your money on.
Yeah.
Things like boots, anything that touches your skin, so socks, underwear, base layers, and also anything that's like has any element of survival. So your insulated down jackets, your waterproofs, and your sleeping bag. Those are things that I like to spend money on because I know I want a quality item.
And you had a good point there. Is that you've got certain things you don't want to give into. You want a good set of boots.
Yeah.
Like you said, good waterproof, good down jacket. There are certain things you don't want to scrimp on.
No, exactly. Yeah. I think if you do start cutting, you can find really good deals. it's not about not finding a good deal. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but it's about buying an item that you know is going to be reliable.
Yeah,
that's what I really like. So if I'm looking for a down jacket, I want to be able to rely on it if it gets cold. If I got a sleeping bag, I want to rely on it when it gets like super cold at night. I don't want to have any lingering doubt in my mind, because you'll find that when you're sat in the tea house and it's -20 and you're shivering and you can't sleep because you're cold, you'll have done anything to go back 6 months a year and spend a little extra on a sleeping bag that your mate's in opposite you and he's really comfortable. So I do think that, you want a peace of mind is important. So that's why, buying boots, sleeping bag, base layers.
Exactly.
And then, there are certain things that, like a fleece, I don't really care. I'll buy any fleece, wear any hoodie.
Mate, this is the one now. This is the new. You can't probably see, but it's got the Evertrek logo on the back. It's looking. These are our new hoodies.
Yeah, I haven't got mine on.
They look like the old hoodies. They're just new.
Yeah.
They're because the other ones we'd obviously had we had a lot of them. So we got a new batch, which is good. Sheila asked a good question as well. Hiram, one of your sleeping bag. Hey Sheila, by the way, one of your sleeping bags has been recommended. Are these the same standard as the ones we're talking about? Yeah. So any of the higher sleeping bags, especially in Nepal. Again, Dave goes, they are locally made. They are more than suitable for the trekking part. If you're going on any of the peaks, it does exclude that in terms of, because you need something a bit higher up.
Yeah.
They're not included, but the trekking sleeping bags are. If you come into EBC or anywhere on any of the trips in Nepal, in the tea houses, then the sleeping bag that you get is more than suitable for that. Obviously saves you a few bucks as well, because sometimes those sleeping bags can be, 150, 100 pounds, 200 pounds for those particular sleeping bags. Some people do prefer to get their own, they're just, because obviously these are rentals, so they are used by other people. So, and even though they are cleaned, some people prefer to have their own. But just to say, if you do use a higher one, just take like a liner, just so you've got that little barrier. Yeah. Some people prefer that.
I used a rental in EBC for the trek, and it's one of them where you can't really stuff a sleeping bag in the washing machine or anything like that. They're cleaned as well as they can, but they've been used by other people before you. If you're lucky, you'll get one at the beginning of its life. If you're unlucky, it'll be at the end of your life. But we have to make sure that we get the maximum amount of use out of them to avoid any wastage. Like Andy said, a liner is fine. You'll be happy enough because you're in something brand new. It's just you're like a kind of what they call those Russian dolls of liners, in a sleeping bag.
Well, that's it. You'd have so many bloody layers. But that's what I mean in terms of finding the right gear for you, trial and error. Is that sometimes your first night in the sleeping bag, you might be a bit too warm, so you might get out of your liner, or you take the sleeping bag off and you'll just sleep in the liner. I've done that. So then by trial and error, then you'll find that the other few nights you'll kind of find what works for you. And then obviously as you get colder and colder, you start putting those layers back on.
Yeah.
So it is that trial and error thing, and we're all different. Like Dave runs a bit hotter than me, so generally we'll have kind of less layers on, when you're sleeping. Whereas I got them all over, and then it's happy days.
Yeah, no, I can't handle it. But what I do is I do bring my clothes into the sleeping bag with me, though.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, when I have to get up super early to go to Summit and it's freezing, you don't want to sort of like crawl out your sleeping bag in your undercrackers. And so I'll bring in
it's
socks,
a scary sight.
Socks, trousers, base layer, that sort of stuff. So it's kind of my sleeping bag and my clothes are all the same temperature.
Yeah.
So I can just kind of get changed in the bag and get out. In fact, to be honest, most of the time when I'm doing it's day before Summit night or day before EBC, I just got a bed in my clothes I intend to wear.
It almost becomes one of those, because I don't normally wear PJs, but it's like putting PJs on to go to sleep while you're trekking.
Yeah, and
it's funny, isn't it?
The idea of wearing dirty, dusty, minging trekking clothes and getting into your sleeping bag, that matters when you're at home. When you're in Gorakshep, it doesn't matter at all. So
it's one of those things that I see what you mean. It doesn't require thought.
No, I'm just
just deal with it.
I don't want to faff in the morning. I want to just unzip, put my jacket on, put my boots on, and be ready to go. All I got to do is brush my teeth, and I'm good to go. I don't want to have to mess around and get changed or anything like that. So normally, you'll see I think me and you are different in this respect, because I will get all my stuff ready for the next day.
Yeah.
Zip up my bag, so that's all done.
Yeah.
Where you're like an explosion has taken place of items, and in the morning you'll sort stuff out.
Yeah, well, it's because I'm always up earlier.
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey, doing stuff, pack. Right, Dave, ready to get up?
Yeah.
But it's funny, isn't it? because you see people, especially when you're sharing, like especially a dorm in Tubcal, for instance, and you see everyone's got a different way of getting their bag ready. Everyone's got a different way of kind of, there's nuances. It's quite interesting.
See, yeah, I'm lazy and I don't want to have to think about it in the morning.
Yeah.
So I just get everything ready. So when I wake up, all I got to do is just get dressed and leave. My bag's done, it's packed, everything's sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good system.
Stuart asked about, on the theme of sleeping bags as well. Popular today, sleeping bags. Stuart, how you doing? Is a -7 comfort, -12 extreme sleeping bag okay for Killian Febb?
I'd say, yeah,
Pretty good,
it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
I think the Rabix Ascent 700 that I used went down, I think it was like -10,
It's -10, -12.
-10, something like that, comfort. I would say that's fine. Like, it doesn't often go like below -7, and you are in the tent. And also you do have the option of putting on your down jacket and your clothes and things like that for extra warmth if you need to. I don't know many people that can get in a sleeping bag dressed with their down jacket and beanie on and still think they're cold.
Yeah.
I would say it's on fine. I wouldn't want to go any less than that. That would be sort of my bottom standard that I wouldn't want to breach. But yeah, I think that should be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Bri makes a good point as well. Like, and I know when this is accessible, and most places, especially tea houses, sometimes there's a small charge for it. Is that you can get some hot water as well. So some people do take, you get some warm water in the night. Obviously, be careful if you're putting it with you. But some people put it in their sleeping bag to keep them warm in the night, and in the morning you wake up. Obviously, you've boiled it, so it's nice to drink. And then it's nice and cold in the morning, because hopefully by the morning it would have cooled down. Highly likely.
Yeah, if you just see someone's bottle next to the bed and it looks like they've got squash in there or apple juice, leave it alone.
Don't touch that one.
Don't touch that one.
Wouldn't drink from that.
Yeah, talking about that, should we move to boots?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we'll stay on sleeping bags for the whole day.
I know, it's good, isn't it? We're getting squirted again. He's back.
He is back.
He's back. I thought that window was looking lovely, but clearly he thinks it needs another wash.
I mean, nobody's going to wash the streaks off it. Otherwise, that's going to look weird.
Sorry, it's weird.
It's his business.
We need like a side-on camera.
So it's his business. It's not my house, so I don't care.
It's all good. Carl mentioned as well. Really good shout out for Bear Hug, one of our partners. We've worked with the last few years. Obviously knee supports. They do loads of different supports. Anything that is a joint, generally they cover. So yeah, they're really good. Caught up with Reese and the team back end of last year. They had a little kind of it was like an open shop event in Cardiff. It was really cool. Had some of the Welsh rugby players there. It was really good. They did a little 5K as well. They had some really good vibes and obviously great knee supports as well. Especially because all this trekking, all this stuff, it takes its toll. So you've got to make that journey as easy as possible, and sometimes you need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
Especially if there's anyone like Dave who's had big knee injuries, big joint injuries. It's good to look after your.
Yeah, no, I've used them. I've used them on Glencoe Challenge, that sort of thing. Skiing, actually.
Helps with skiing.
Yeah,
you've got to look after the knees.
So no, really good, really good.
Also, as Sheila mentioned, I think it was a follow-up question. Someone else said the tea houses also have quilts. I know there's answered as well, but just for everyone else, I think Raymond jumped in there, which is good. But yeah, basically, it depends on the availability, but most of the time there are blankets and duvets. Mm-hmm. There are some, especially the busier times of the year, say April and October, where obviously there's lots of people there, and it depends on the availability in the tea houses. Normally, if you can just rely on your sleeping bag, and then if there's a blanket or a duvet to help out, I think that as a bonus. So I wouldn't rely on it. But yeah, sometimes, like Raymond says there, you get it all to yourself, and it's lovely. But just don't rely on that.
No.
Sometimes, and some of them, randomly, I've been in some tea houses, they had electric blankets, and I'm like,
I was in Gorwich.
That's cool.
I didn't use it though. I used it to charge my power bank.
That's true. It was free energy.
It's free energy. Yeah, don't need an electric blanket. None of that nonsense.
Well, I've used them before, and you leave it on. You wake up, and it's like your kidneys are being boiled. And I'm like, whoa, for me, turn that off.
For me though, it's a step too far.
Well, you run hot anyway.
If I'm in a hotel and it's really cold, then fine. But if I'm on an adventure, I want to. no one ever says, "Oh, what was it like?" What was it? Oh no, it was great, really tough. Made EBC, had electric blankets along the way. So you either gotta keep that to yourself or not use it. And I thought, use it instead. Use the socket to power my power banks.
So about boots then, I think you might have a pair just to your left.
Yeah, so these ones, actually, these are, to be honest, they're the pair that we had in the office, and they're a strange pair to use because they sort of fit in the middle of two categories.
The only thing is that they're a boot.
They are a boot. we needed a boot, and we had a boot.
Yes.
But yeah, these are the La Sportiva Equilibriums. They're sort of a hybrid, really. But they're a B2. As you can see, there's like a welt at the back there to fit a B2 crampon, but they're not strictly B2 spec all round.
Yeah.
Like they're quite stiff, but like you can bend them a little bit, which is you really can't do on other boots.
Yeah, that's rare, isn't it?
And it
isn't always a good thing.
Yeah. So, and I used them on Toupcal in winter, and they were actually pretty good for Toupcal in winter. Yeah. If you were going to do Toupcal in winter, I'd recommend these boots. But if you were going to do Island Peak with them, even though they're crampon compatible, they would be really, really not good enough. But they're a really good boot, actually. Do you know what I think these are great for? And what I love about them is that, to me, they're like an all-year-round boot.
Bit of an all-rounder, yeah.
So you can wear this boot all round. I've worn it in the summer. I've worn it in the winter. Yeah, it's a really, really good boot. I think you could wear it on... the only reason I wouldn't wear this for things like, say, Kilimanjaro or Everest Base Camp
is a bit rigid, isn't it?
It's very stiff.
Yeah.
I like the insulation. I like the hard sort of plastic at the front for like toe protection and things like that. But actually, I'd be more inclined to wear one that's as warm as this, but is towards hiking boot rather than technical boot. If you imagine you've got like B2 boot, and then that's in the middle of the spectrum. This is towards technical, and the other ones are towards hiking. And I think like the Maindel Bhutan, me and you have both used a lot of.
Yeah, that's like a mainstay. I mean, anyone that's been around the Evertrekker community for any length of time, we obviously talk about Maindels a lot, especially the Bhutans, but there's loads of good boots out there. And again, through trial and error, and finding what works for you. It's, we've used North Face Hedgehogs GTX, they're good.
Yeah.
We've used lots of the Salomons. You've got Scarpas, you've got La Sportivas. You've got so many different kind of
Hockers.
Yeah, Hockers, exactly. There's so many different boots out there that you just got to find what works for you sometimes, because we'll talk about Maindel Bhutans, and a lot of the community have used them as actually they're really good, and it's rare that you'll get blisters if they are well fitted.
Yeah.
And a good pair of insoles. But yeah, you sometimes you've got to explore what works for you, right?
Yeah, I've started doing. I used to try and have one boot to rule them all. Like the quiver killer of boots. You've got your technical boots and your high mountaineering boots, but then I'd like the Maindel Bhutan for me for a while was the do it all boot. I wore it no matter the weather. It could be winter, it could be summer. It was perfect for Kili. It was perfect for EBC. It was perfect for Mount Toupcal.
Yeah.
But now the way I'm operating these days is I have more than one boot. I've stopped using the quiver killer and I've got the one thing.
Okay.
I don't have just the one thing. So now I use a lot of shoes now, like hiking shoes.
I do that. You wear trail shoes quite a lot.
Trail shoes quite a lot. And I never used to, but I started wearing trail shoes. When did I buy it? I can't remember. It was about a year ago now, maybe a bit longer.
Yeah.
And I've done quite a few hikes in trail shoes now, including the Great Glencoe Challenge, which is 28 mile. I think I wore a pair to Toupcal, not for the mountain, but for the trekking side of things.
Yeah.
I don't know why I really bonded with them.
Well, sometimes I think, obviously, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
It is that element of risk.
Well, because you can roll an ankle, you haven't got the support. But I do have now, so I've got those, which are my everyday hikers.
Yeah.
I've then got summer hiking boots, and I've got winter hiking boots, and now I've got technical mountaineering high altitude boots.
I was going to say, your quiver's grown, Dave.
So yeah, I don't just have I haven't just got. So now I have got a full quiver. The trick is, so when someone says, okay, which boots do you bring on which trip?
Yeah.
That's when I'll make a call. So if I'm going to do the Glencoe Challenge, a one-day event, there's no overnight, and it's not in winter, I'd probably go with the trail shoes.
Interesting.
Because no matter what, I've got to just put up with whatever misfortunes I have for one day.
Yeah.
And I know the terrain. If I'm going on a multi-day adventure, I'll wear my boots.
That makes sense.
Because there's going to be an element of the unknown. The terrain could change. the weather could change, and I want that added protection.
Exactly.
And then I'll start to think about, depending on the adventure. So if I was going to Killy, I'd bring my sort of winter boots. You know, if I was going to Toubkal in summer, I'd bring my summer boots. And I'm finding that that's the way.
That's a good way to think about it, though, because you talk about, especially when you're planning trips or you're on trips, especially if you're doing training trips over here, so you're not guided. You want to give yourself confidence, and we use, what was it, REP.
Yeah.
And and REP is like an acronym, really. And the E in REP stands for equipment, and it is different depending on the challenge you're faced with.
Yeah.
You know, naturally we have, I use the word easier. None of our trips are easy, but you've got ones that are easier than others, and you don't really necessarily need the epic mountaineering boots for the easier trips. So you do need to look at it with those. Okay, what's the challenge?
Yeah.
What's the environment like, and what's the route look like? What's the weather that you're faced with? And then that leads you then to choosing the right equipment.
100%. Holly's just said that I prefer shoes and trail shoes, but worried about Killy for warmth. To be honest, I wouldn't recommend them for Kilimanjaro.
Agreed.
They definitely, but you can still bring them and wear them on the lower days. So in Killy, you're on the mountain for 8 days, so you do want a pair of easily slip-onable sort of shoes like Crocs, whatever, for moving around camp and things like that. They can do that. You can just put those on really easily, and you can use them on some of the lower days. But for summit night, if you get a cold snap, that's potentially like a game stopper there. For instance, when we went up in February, if any of us had sort of trail shoes that weren't providing enough insulation, you may have had to turn back because of frozen feet.
Exactly.
Like when I did Mount Toubkal in the winter that time, it was really, really cold.
Yeah.
I barely made it with the boots. I was starting to wonder, like, his feet are getting a bit cold.
Really?
But there was enough time in enough daylight left to make a safe decision. If I had trail shoes on, I probably would have turned back.
It's interesting, isn't it? But it does, and there's that approach that obviously then I was out of the blue that weather.
Yeah.
On Toubkal, and like imagine that kind of change of decision. But you played it safe.
But that's exactly it. It's about peace of mind, and you want to rely on your kit. Yeah. If there's a question about whether or not my piece of kit is going to be workable, I'm more likely than not go for a step up.
Yeah.
To answer the question.
Yeah.
So, but what I usually recommend people, despite what I just said, is the first way that I used to do things by having like one boot to rule them all is a way to avoid those things for the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And for me, it was the Meindl Bhutan. I did find it a bit narrow, so my foot felt a bit squashed, but I never got blisters, so I could put up with that. And I did find that boot was great for Killy, EBC, Scotland, that sort of stuff. It was amazing.
But it has its limitations.
Yeah. And to be honest, if it's a really hot day, like we went up to Brecon and it was like 38 degrees that one training weekend. It was hot. Your feet are going to sweat and it's going to be horrible. So I do recommend getting, if you can only afford one really decent pair of boots, go for the Quiver Killer, the one boot that sits in the middle and will do it all. Exactly. Don't just go for a summer or an extreme winter pair. But for Holly, I would recommend take your trail shoes, wear them on the lower days if that's what you prefer, but bring boots for summit night. Do you know what will happen now? It'll be the most mild, warm summit night ever, and she'll be saying, "Dave, what you want about?"
That's true.
But here's the thing.
Imagine
if you rely on the weather like running in your favor, you will never reach another summit. In my opinion, like the moment you start thinking, "I'll be fine. The weather will be okay. As long as the weather's warm, I'll be fine." It won't be. But if you bring the boots, it will be. But that's just sod's law.
But that comes down to manage risk, isn't it? At the end of the day, on any mountain and any mountaineering guide you speak to, worth their salt, will talk about this and manage risk and unmanaged risk. You don't want to leave it down to the weather. You want to leave it down to you. You have control about what equipment you use, and that could be the difference between reaching the summit or getting there and getting back down safely. And obviously, you want to try and because I'm the same. I like to wear my trail shoes because they're comfortable and they're easier and they're lighter and it just feels easier, doesn't it? But sometimes you do have to put that little bit of a comfort blanket in there of safety when you're taking on these big challenges, because the last thing you want to do is roll an ankle. Last thing you want to do is it's too cold, and that's what stops your summit.
Yeah.
And you think all that hard work, all the money you spent, all that equipment you bought, all the emotion that's gone into a trip, and that's why you turn around. So I think, that's when you then that risk is managed as best you can.
Yeah.
Graham, apologies as well. You asked this quite a while ago, but just to kind of swing back to it, is it fair to assume waterproof should be sized to go over a down jacket?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, go on, Dave. You want to take this?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've never worn one over my down jacket.
No.
Because usually I find that if it's raining, it's not that cold. If it's super cold and it's raining, it's usually snow where we are.
Yeah.
But here's why I don't like to do that. Because one, you want your jacket to be quite lofty. Okay, if you like compress it down under a waterproof, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. They're not designed to be worn in the rain. So if it's really cold and raining, I'm more likely to put on other layers under my waterproof. So I might put on like a winter base layer, a really, really warm fleece, and then my waterproof jacket. So to answer the question, you are half right. I do tend to size up a little bit to account for layers, but I probably don't wear it over my down jacket. I don't think I've ever done that actually. If it's really cold and dry, I wear my down jacket. If it's soaking and it's like driving rain, your down jacket, it's going to get destroyed. It's going to get ruined. It's better to layer up rather than just have one piece that you use to keep warm. The other issue you've got to be concerned about as well is that when you're trekking, rarely have I found that it's so cold that you will need like your base layer, your mid layer, your down jacket, and then a waterproof jacket. Because when you're moving, you're generating heat. And what you're likely to do then is start to sweat, which you want to try and avoid. So layering, that's why layering comes in. You don't want to rely just on one piece of kit to make it or break it. You have your base layer, which can be winter. Then you can have your fleece. Then you can have your other jacket. And then you can also add extra layers on. So you can even put like a gilet under it or something like that. That's more likely what I'll do. Hopefully that helps.
No, it's really good, Dave. I think you're right there in terms of it. When you're wearing your down jacket, it's rare that you're doing a lot of exercise. Yeah. Unless it's really, really cold. Unless you're on a peak, like Island Peak, Mera Peak, any, Aconcagua, maybe Patagonia in terms of the ice fields. There are certain ones where you don't really hike in your down jacket just because you build up sweat. Sometimes you do, because it's just too cold, too much snow. But majority of the time, I wouldn't wear one on top, definitely.
No, unless I think when I've trekked in my down jackets when I was on my way to the summit of Killy, Toubkal in winter, those type of things. But most of the time, I probably won't trek in my down jacket unless it's really, really cold.
Yeah.
Nice. Sue Davis has said, I've got leather scarpas, hiking boots for EBC in October with 4 season socks. You'll be fine. Yeah. That sounds great. Perfect.
Especially, there's lots of good ones. Like you've got the Terra Gore-Tex, I think it's called, Cirrus. You've got a lot of different leather boots, haven't you, with Scarpa? But as Dave said, majority of those are suitable. If they're leather, generally then they've got, as long as they've got the decent ankle support, again, so you're not relying on the trail Scarpas, which I don't think they are. I think they only make them with decent, up to the ankle, above the ankle. With 4 season socks, you'll be fine. And go back to what we said as well, trial and error. You might find that maybe it's too warm with 4 season socks. Maybe especially during the day in Nepal, it can be quite warm. Sometimes 15, kind of 20 degrees sometimes. So you do see some people in their shorts and t-shirts during the day. Obviously, early in the morning when the sunlight hasn't hit you, it is cold. And the same as you get higher, you'll probably say, okay, actually, I need to put a few more layers on. So it's trial and error. You'll find over a few days what works for you. And you'll see people stop in, taking their jacket off, and then 10 minutes down the road, they'll be putting the jacket on. It's just like that all the time. So just feel that's just part of trial and error with layering. And you don't always get it right, but you'll work out in the end what works for you. Definitely. Nice, Dave. Well, we've covered quite a lot today.
Quite a fair bit, I think.
I wrote down one boot to rule them all. I do like that.
See that on social media soon.
You know what we're like, mate. We know what we're like. But we hope that's useful, guys. I know we've kind of delved into specific equipment types, and I suppose we mentioned the finding the right gear for you. Dave mentioned as well something earlier on. I'm not sure if everyone missed it. Was around using your gear in your training as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy this shiny new gear and only use it when you get out on these trips, because again you'll find something that works for you. So make sure you trial it and use it as part of your training. Especially if you're doing Kili, obviously if you're doing a night hike in the UK, I highly recommend that, by the way, if you're doing Kili or Toubkal. Get out and use your equipment you're going to use on the trip. And then that way then you'll find out that you actually might not need all of it.
Yeah.
Save a few kilos on weight.
Exactly. I'll quickly answer Holly's because she got it in there at the end. What's your views on merino? I really like merino wool stuff. Yeah. I think it's quite expensive.
Merino wool.
But it's really, really good. It dries out really quick. It's it's antimicrobial, so it lasts longer on these multiple day treks. But it is expensive. So if you bought every base layer, they're a minimum of about £50 each for the merino stuff. So you don't need to go to merino. There's like all the main brands do really good stuff for a lot less. But I love merino. I tend to buy the lighter weight stuff as well, like because it is really warm. And I tend to get my heat from sort of mid layers and outer layers. So whatever I wear next to my skin tends to be a bit of a lightweight one.
Nice.
But yeah, other than that, I think hopefully that's been helpful and a little bit enlightening.
Yeah, it's been good.
A lot of sleeping bag talk, so everyone's going to be sorted with good bags.
Well, mate, it's a complete load of kit. I remember you said that a few years ago, and I was like, you know what, that's perfect for today. So yeah, hopefully it's been useful. Bit of a kind of change of gear after what we talked about last week.
Yep.
We'll be back next week. I know it's half term in the UK, isn't it? I think we got so we're away for a couple of days at the end of the week, but I'll be here. It'd be good to do another live. And anything you need, don't forget to reach out to any of the team.
Yeah.
I know Brittany and Trudy have been on some of the comments today. Which is awesome. As part of our customer team, so they're looking after you as well, guys. So any questions, just drop us on the live chat on the website. Or if you're on socials, obviously drop us a DM or a WhatsApp, and then we can try and help you as best we can. But have a wonderful week, wherever you're up to, and we'll see you again next time.
Awesome. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.
Bye.